Hello everyone, I'm Maddie, a comic artist and illustrator, and I make videos following my journey of creating and eventually posting a webcomic about a cowboy and some western witches, my favorite things. If you are someone that has watched my videos before I started posting videos on this current comic, you know I kind of disappeared from social media for the end of 2019, all of 2020, and a bit of the beginning of this year. I talked about it briefly in some of my old videos, but I feel like making a storytime video talking about what the heck happened and why I disappeared for so long and kind of my expectations for my channel and my artwork going forward. And this story talks about illness, pregnancy, and childbirth, so if those things are things you can't really listen to, thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you clicked on the video, but check me out for my next video, and then I guess I'll see you next time. But for those of you that are staying and want to hear my story, this is going to be pretty long, probably, I'm not sure, and kind of rambly, so I'm sorry. I have some notes to try and keep myself on track. So, yeah. So the story actually begins in May of 2019, actually before I kind of went on an extended break from social media. It was when I was 6 weeks pregnant and I went to the ER after having been throwing up about every 10 minutes from I want to say 10 p.m. until almost 1:30 a.m., maybe almost 2 a.m. I had my husband drive me to the ER, and they did a bunch of tests on me and diagnosed me with something called a subchorionic hematoma. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that was unrelated to the throwing up. And they actually diagnosed me with hyperemesis gravidarum. I don't know. Hyperemesis is what most people call it, and it's basically just a super morning sickness that never goes away. It's fairly uncommon. It only happens in about 2% of pregnancies from what I understand and what I've read. But normally people only have morning sickness for the first 3 months, but I was sick the entire time I was pregnant, and I was always really exhausted because of it. Now, I have never actually been to the ER before being pregnant, so it's not like I am just dramatic or anything like that. I was extremely, extremely ill. So that summer, I did some conventions. I did, I think, 3 conventions that summer. And I did speak briefly about those, I believe, in some old videos, and it was really fun. I really hope to do some more conventions once it's safe for me next year. But anyway, so then, lucky me, I got food poisoning actually when I was 8 months pregnant. That was in October. It was really awful, and I missed Halloween. I was very, very sad because that whole week I was out. We were allowed to dress up for Halloween at my work, and I missed the whole thing. But I know the things I'm sad about. But I went to the ER actually twice for it. So I went the first time because I was really, really sick. And they gave me some they gave me like IV fluids because I was extremely dehydrated, and they figured it would just go away if I stayed hydrated and rested. So they gave me a doctor's note to not work for a couple of days, and then I stayed home the next day, and then the day after that I went back to the ER because I was not getting any better and I was actually starting to feel worse. And they gave me more IV fluids and did a bunch of tests on me and set me up with a doctor's appointment for the next day. and turns out I had some sort of bacterial infection and needed antibiotics. So I got those and I finally started to feel better. I'm sorry if you hear my dog crying. She's very sad that I am not petting her, but she's not close enough for me to pet. Come here. Come here, pup. Okay. Well, sorry. Anyway, so that's kind of when I fell off social media. I was really sick and both emotionally and physically drained. At the time, I was still working full-time at a retail job, which made me feel like I couldn't ever get enough rest due to having weird retail hours. I ate Tums like they were candy because I always had heartburn. And it just got to the point where I couldn't even sleep because laying on my side was extremely painful. And that's actually from a previous injury, but that is another story time video. I remember the last day of work before I had my son was a Sunday, and I almost called in to work that day because I was really miserable, but I didn't because, one, I don't like calling in to work and a lot of stuff needed to be done, so I didn't want to push that onto my coworkers, so I went in and did what I could. Turns out I was having contractions and they were like every 10 minutes or so, but since it's the only time I've ever been pregnant, I had no idea what contractions felt like, and they weren't painful, so I was okay, and I was just tired, but I must have just looked angry or something, because I remember a customer came up to me to have me help him with his artwork, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, is your shift almost over? I can work with someone else." And I was like, "No, I'm just really pregnant, and this is just how my face looks right now." Yeah, he was really nice from what I remember, but yeah, I thought that was funny. I must have just looked so grumpy. And then the next day, I was not feeling very well. Well, I was more than usual that entire night. And then, so the next morning, I went to the maternal ER and they did some tests on me to make sure I was okay, and turns out I had pre-eclampsia, and so they told me that I was going to have a baby that day. And I guess I did not have gestational diabetes, but I had so much wrong with me. I was so sick constantly, and I wasn't allowed to eat anything because of the preeclampsia. And I also had some sort of bacterial something rather, and had to have IV antibiotics. My nurse was really awesome, and she named my IV stand Stanley. And I remember telling my husband that when he got there, and he was like, "Did you name it Stanley?" And I'm like, "Nope, the nurse did." And but yeah, my husband was actually at work, so he went home and grabbed stuff for me and then brought it into the hospital because I was not expecting to be admitted, so I didn't bring anything with me, which in hindsight was kind of dumb because it was only like 3 days before my due date. So yeah, I should have just had it in the car. But then many hours later, my son was born, and yay, he was happy and cute, and everyone was fine. I was fine, he was fine, we were all good, except maybe my dog, who was probably sad that we left her at home alone all day. And I'm sorry, puppy, I love you. So my son was born before the pandemic, but he was born in 2020, and then like a week or something later, my husband and I closed on a house. It was so stressful, so busy, but it was also really good. And we thought, we were finally getting things together and gonna have a nice little house, a nice little family. And I thought those would be like the strangest parts of my year, having a baby, buying a house. But we all know how 2020 went, and that was the most normal part of my year. And actually, when my maternity leave ended, the store I worked at was closed, and all the daycares were closed anyway, so even if my job wasn't closed, no one could watch the baby because my husband was still working, thankfully. And then in the summer, my AC wasn't working, and then my fridge broke, and it was just a mental load I couldn't handle, and I don't think I drew for quite a few months. I had nowhere to set up a camera and record drawings of paintings, even if I had motivation and the time to do those things. But as my son got bigger and a little more independent, I was really getting the itch to draw again. I just was apprehensive about having sharp pencils and painting with my very beautiful yet quite toxic watercolor paints, because my son was obsessed with grabbing that kind of stuff out of my hands, and let's be honest, he still is. He's a toddler. It just is better if I had something that I could draw with that was not dangerous to him. So instead of getting a birthday present or a Christmas present or another present, probably again for the rest of my life, my husband and I scraped up money for me to get an iPad and do artwork on that instead. And I have to say, I absolutely love drawing on my iPad, and many years ago, I had a Surface Pro, and I liked it for like a week. It just wasn't very good at doing the things that I needed it to. It would overheat and crash pretty consistently. But I got that because I could have Clip Studio on it, and then I could also draw on it as well. But when I learned that there's an iPad app of Clip Studio that's the full version, I was really excited and sold on getting an iPad, because people online and in real life for me have been telling me they love drawing on it. And I really love drawing on it, and at least if my son grabs my Apple Pencil, it's not sharp and it's not toxic and it's fine. Not to mention, it's extremely easy to do screen recordings with the iPad. Just press a button. It's so easy. At some point, I found an old copy of a comic I did in school. I wanted to get back into drawing comics and do a short story before I was to dive into something big and epic. So I plan to redo this little mini comic and flesh it out and blah 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 blah, extend it, whatever. I think I spoke about this already in a fairly recent video, but I'm having a lot of fun drawing again. I'm excited to be posting videos again and making comics. But that pretty much brings us to now, and I hope you guys enjoyed my long rambling video. I love listening to artists talk about things while I draw. Do you guys like these style of videos? Were you drawing while you were listening? Let me know what you were working on if you were. And I do want to state that even though I had a lot of struggles in the past, let's just say 2 years now, especially during pregnancy, I am very thankful that it all ended up okay. We're all happy and healthy, and I don't want it to come off as me being ungrateful, because I am not. I am very fortunate, and I'm very grateful that I was able to have that experience of having a baby and him being happy and healthy, and he's still happy and healthy. So please just know that I'm very grateful, but I also had a very, very rough time and I was very sick, and that's okay. They can exist at the same time. But don't forget, guys, if you like this video, then hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, and you can see more videos and speed paints and other things from me and my journey to creating this comic and posting it eventually on the internet, and we can take it all together. And don't forget to check me out at Maddie Bloom Art on all of my socials, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye bye.